If you look at a map of the Middle East today, you are looking at a crime scene. The geopolitical architecture that defined this region for 40 years hasn't just been damaged, it has been demolished. Right now, a massive American naval armada, led by the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group, is sitting in the Arabian Sea. They aren't there for a training exercise. They are there because the Islamic Republic of Iran is on the ropes, facing the greatest threat to its existence since the 1979 revolution. We are looking at a regime that has lost its forward operating bases. It has lost its nuclear infrastructure. And now, it is losing its own streets. How did we get here? How did the quote zero turn into the quote one? And what actually happened when the B-2 Spirits flew from Missouri to drop the heaviest non-nuclear bombs in history on the mountains of Fordo? Today we are going to break down the conflict between the US, Israel, and Iran. We're going to look at the tactics, the hardware, and the brutal strategic math that brought us to the edge of regime change. To understand the violence of the last 2 years, you have to understand the Iranian strategy of quote two. For decades, Tehran knew it couldn't win a conventional war against the United States. Their air force was aging and their army was ill-equipped. So they built a ring of fire. They didn't want to fight in Tehran, they wanted to fight in Beirut, in Damascus, in Baghdad, and in Gaza. They spent billions arming proxies like Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen. The goal was simple. If Israel or America tries to touch Iran, the proxies burn down Tel Aviv. It was a brilliant strategy. It worked perfectly until October 7th, 2023. When Hamas attacked Israel, they didn't just start a war in Gaza. They lit the fuse on the entire Iranian proxy network. But instead of deterring Israel, it convinced Tel Aviv that they could no longer live with a gun pointed at their head. The rules of the game changed overnight. Israel stopped playing quote _for_, and started playing for keeps. Throughout 2024, the Israeli intelligence services went on a headhunting spree. They systematically dismantled the leadership of the quote _5_. In July 2024, they assassinated Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh right in the heart of Tehran. 2 months later, in September, they dropped heavy bunker-busting munitions on a command center in Beirut, killing Hezbollah's Hassan Nasrallah. In a matter of months, the decades of experience that commanded Iran's foreign legions were wiped out. But the biggest blow didn't come from a missile. It came from a collapse. If you study logistics, you know that amateurs talk strategy, but professionals talk logistics. Iran's entire projection of power relied on the land bridge, a physical route of highways stretching from Iran, through Iraq, through Syria, into Lebanon. This was the artery. It was how precision-guided missiles got to Hezbollah. Then, in December 2024, the unthinkable happened. The Assad regime in Syria, Iran's oldest and most vital state ally, collapsed. Rebel forces reorganizing rapidly swept through the country. On December 8, 2024, Damascus fell. Bashar al-Assad fled to Russia. Just like that, the highway was closed. This was the strategic checkmate. Without Syria, Hezbollah became an island, isolated and starving for supplies. Iran was cut off from the Mediterranean. The quote seven had been broken. Paranoid and isolated, the hardliners in Tehran made a fatal miscalculation. They decided their only insurance policy left was the ultimate deterrent, the bomb. By early 2025, intelligence agencies were flashing red. Iran was installing advanced IR-6 centrifuges at their mountain facility in Fordo. They were rushing toward a nuclear breakout. Diplomacy failed in Rome in May. On June 13, 2025, the talking stopped. Israel launched what is now known as the quote 8. This wasn't a shadow war anymore. This was a direct, full-scale kinetic assault. The Israeli Air Force, using F-35 Siege Adir stealth fighters, executed a masterclass in CD, suppression of enemy air defenses. In the first 48 hours, they blinded the Iranian radar network and hunted down the Russian-made S-300 batteries protecting Tehran. They claimed air superiority almost immediately. but the target set was too deep and too hardened for standard airstrikes. The Iranian nuclear facilities were buried under hundreds of feet of granite. That is when the United States entered the chat. On June 21, 2025, President Trump ordered Operation Midnight Hammer. This is the operation military historians will be writing about for decades. It was the moment the United States demonstrated true global reach. 7B-2 Spirit stealth bombers took off from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. They didn't deploy from a nearby base in Qatar. They flew a 37-hour round trip from the American Midwest. They were carrying a very specific payload, the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, or MOP. This isn't just a bomb, it's a 30,000-pound bunker buster. It is designed to punch through 60 meters of reinforced concrete before detonating. It is the only conventional weapon on Earth capable of killing a facility like Fordow. And it did. The B-2S slipped past the remaining air defenses and delivered their payloads. The assessments were stark, the ventilation shafts collapsed, the centrifuge halls crushed. The U.S. assessment is that Iran's nuclear program was set back by at least 2 years in a single night. Simultaneously, a U.S. Navy Ohio-class guided missile submarine unleashed a salvo of Tomahawk missiles, flattening command and control nodes near Isfahan. By June 24th, a ceasefire was called. Iran's air defenses were gone. Its missile inventory was depleted. Its nuclear ambition was buried under a mountain of rubble. But wars have consequences that last longer than the explosions. The war destroyed the Iranian military, but the peace destroyed the Iranian economy. Following the war, the U.S. reinstated, quote, 11 sanctions with a vengeance. They hunted down the, quote, 12, the tankers smuggling oil to China. By January 2026, the Iranian oil trade was paralyzed. The currency collapsed. Hyperinflation set in, and the Iranian people, tired of paying for wars in Lebanon while they couldn't afford bread in Tehran, reached their breaking point. On December 28, 2025, it started. Not with students, but in the Grand Bazaar of Tehran. The merchants, the historical backbone of the economy, went on strike. This is the Great Uprising. It is far larger than the protests of 2009 or 2022. It has spread to 400 cities. The slogans aren't about reform anymore, they are about revolution. They are chanting, quote, 14. The regime has responded with brutal force. We are seeing reports of helicopter gunships firing on crowds. Opposition groups claim over 30,000 dead in the crackdown. The internet has been blacked out since January 8th, hiding the massacre from the world. That brings us to today, January 28th, 2026. The United States has issued a new national defense strategy. The doctrine is, quote, 15. The message to Tehran is clear. You are alone. President Trump has deployed a massive naval force to the region. The rhetoric is sharp. He has warned that if the slaughter of protesters continues, the U.S. military is, quote, 16. This fleet isn't just for show. It's an enforcement mechanism. It's there to ensure the oil blockade holds and to keep the Chinese and Russians from intervening. Speaking of Russia, they have largely abandoned the theater. They pulled their elite units out of Syria earlier this month. They know a lost cause when they see one. So, what happens next? The Iranian regime is cornered. They have no nuclear card to play. Their proxies are broken. Their economy is dead. And their own people are storming the gates. We are witnessing the potential end of a 47-year conflict. The shadow war is over. The 12-day war is history. Now, we are watching the final standoff. For the military observer, the lesson is ruthless but clear. Deterrence only works if you have the capability and the will to use overwhelming force. When the red line was crossed in 2025, the B-2S didn't blink. Stay tuned. The next few weeks will decide the fate of the Middle East for the next century. If you want to stay updated on the fleet movements in the Persian Gulf and the tactical breakdown of the next phase, make sure you subscribe. Over and out.